The year is 1815. Europe is a continent in turmoil. For over 2 decades, war has raged, fueled by the ambition of one man, Napoleon Bonaparte. From the sun-drenched fields of Italy to the snow-covered plains of Russia, Napoleon's armies have marched, leaving an indelible mark on the map of Europe. Yet, after a string of defeats and a brief exile, Napoleon is back, determined to reclaim his lost empire. His return sends shockwaves through the courts and capitals of Europe, uniting his enemies in a desperate bid to stop him once and for all. The stage is set for a confrontation that will decide the fate of nations. The location is Waterloo, a small village in what is now Belgium. Here, on June 18, 1815, 2 massive armies will clash in a battle that will echo through history. The fate of Europe hangs in the balance. On one side stands Napoleon, the brilliant military strategist, the charismatic leader who has risen from obscurity to become the Emperor of France. On the other side stands a coalition of European powers, led by Britain and Prussia, determined to crush Napoleon's dreams of empire and restore the old order. The Battle of Waterloo was not just a clash of armies, it was a clash of ideologies, a clash of destinies. It was a battle that would determine the course of European history for generations to come. The stakes could not be higher. For Napoleon, it was a last gamble to regain his lost glory, to cement his legacy as the master of Europe. For his enemies, it was a chance to finally break Napoleon's hold on Europe, to restore peace and stability to a continent ravaged by war. The world watched with bated breath as the 2 armies prepared for battle. The air was thick with tension, the silence broken only by the tramp of marching feet and the rumble of distant cannon fire. The Battle of Waterloo was about to begin. Napoleon Bonaparte, a name synonymous with military genius and unbridled ambition, found himself at a crossroads in the spring of 1815. Once the master of Europe, his star had waned after a disastrous campaign in Russia and a string of defeats that led to his abdication in 1814. Exiled to the island of Elba, he was far from content with a quiet life of retirement. The embers of his ambition still burned bright, and he yearned for a return to power. Seizing an opportunity presented by political unrest in France, Napoleon escaped Elba and landed on French soil on March 1, 1815. His return was nothing short of triumphant. The French people, weary of the restored monarchy and yearning for the glory days of Napoleon's empire, welcomed him back with open arms. The once exiled emperor marched back into Paris, unopposed, and reclaimed his throne. However, Napoleon's return was met with alarm by the other European powers. The Congress of Vienna, convened to redraw the map of Europe after Napoleon's first defeat, declared him an outlaw and pledged to raise an army to crush him once more. Undeterred, Napoleon knew that time was of the essence. He had to act swiftly and decisively to consolidate his power and defeat the coalition forces massing against him before they could unite. Napoleon's military genius was undeniable. He was a master strategist, a brilliant tactician, and an inspiring leader who could rally his troops to superhuman feats of courage. His victories at Austerlitz, Jena, and Friedland had cemented his reputation as one of the greatest military commanders of all time. But even Napoleon's genius would be put to the ultimate test at Waterloo. He was facing a formidable coalition of enemies, determined to end his rule once and for all. The odds were stacked against him, but Napoleon was not a man to be daunted by adversity. He would stake everything on one final desperate gamble for victory. Across the battle lines from Napoleon's resurgent French army stood a formidable alliance, the Seventh Coalition. This coalition, united in its determination to thwart Napoleon's ambitions, comprised several major European powers. Great Britain, under the leadership of the Duke of Wellington, provided a significant portion of the coalition's military might. Wellington, a seasoned commander known for his strategic acumen and his army's discipline, had gained a reputation as a formidable opponent to Napoleon's forces during the Peninsular War. Alongside Wellington and his British troops stood the Prussian army, led by the veteran Field Marshal Gebhard Leberecht von Blücher. Blücher, known for his tenacity and his unwavering commitment to defeating Napoleon, brought with him a battle-hardened force eager to avenge previous defeats. The Prussian army was renowned for its discipline, its fighting spirit, and its effective use of cavalry. While the British and Prussian forces formed the backbone of the coalition, they were not alone in their opposition to Napoleon. Smaller contingents from other European nations, including the Netherlands, Hanover, Brunswick, and Nassau, also joined the fight, solidifying the coalition's numerical advantage. The presence of these diverse forces underscored the widespread fear and resentment that Napoleon's ambitions had generated across Europe. Despite their common goal of defeating Napoleon, the coalition forces faced significant challenges. The various armies spoke different languages, followed different military traditions, and had varying levels of experience. Coordinating their movements and ensuring effective communication on the battlefield would prove to be a significant logistical and tactical hurdle. However, the coalition's leaders understood that their unity was paramount. They knew that only by working together, setting aside their differences, and presenting a united front, could they hope to overcome the formidable French army and its legendary commander. Section 4. Strategies and Tactics, a clash of military minds. The Battle of Waterloo was not merely a clash of armies. It was a clash of military minds, a strategic chess match between some of the most brilliant military commanders of the era. Napoleon, renowned for his aggressive tactics and his ability to exploit enemy weaknesses, planned to defeat the coalition armies in detail, preventing them from uniting their forces. His strategy hinged on speed, decisiveness, and the element of surprise. Napoleon aimed to swiftly defeat the Prussian army under Blücher before the British forces under Wellington could arrive to reinforce them. He would then turn his attention to Wellington, hoping to crush the British army before Prussian reinforcements could intervene. Napoleon's plan relied on his army's superior mobility and his own ability to outmaneuver and outwit his opponents. On the coalition side, Wellington and Blücher were well aware of the threat posed by Napoleon's military genius. Their strategy focused on two key elements: maintaining a unified front and choosing favorable terrain for a defensive battle. They knew that if they could hold off Napoleon's initial attacks and prevent him from dividing their forces, they would have a good chance of victory. Wellington, a master of defensive warfare, carefully selected his battlefield at Waterloo, positioning his troops along a ridge line that offered good visibility and fields of fire. He understood the importance of terrain and sought to maximize the defensive advantages it offered. Blücher, for his part, pledged to support Wellington with the Prussian army as soon as possible, ensuring that Napoleon could not defeat the coalition armies in detail. The stage was set for a battle that would test the limits of strategic and tactical brilliance. Both sides possessed experienced commanders, well-trained troops, and a determination to achieve victory. The outcome of the Battle of Waterloo would depend on factors beyond mere numbers and firepower. It would hinge on the ability of the commanders to adapt to changing circumstances, to anticipate their opponent's moves, and to seize the initiative at crucial moments. Section 5. The Fury Unleashed. The Battle of Waterloo unfolds. The morning of June 18, 1815, dawned cold and wet over the fields of Waterloo. The air was thick with anticipation and dread as the two massive armies prepared for the confrontation that would decide the fate of Europe. The French army, numbering around 72,000 men, faced a coalition force of approximately 68,000 British, Dutch, Belgian, German, and Nassau troops. The Prussians, with an additional 48,000 men, were still some distance away, racing to join the battle. Napoleon, eager to seize the initiative, launched his first attack around 11:30 a.m., aiming to dislodge the British from their positions along the ridgeline. The French artillery opened a thunderous bombardment, sending a hail of iron and fire crashing down on the coalition lines. French infantry and cavalry surged forward in wave after wave, attempting to break through the British defenses. The Battle of Waterloo was a brutal, bloody affair, a chaotic maelstrom of smoke, fire, and steel. The roar of cannon fire, the rattle of musketry, and the screams of the wounded filled the air, creating a terrifying symphony of destruction. The ground was soon littered with the bodies of fallen soldiers, both French and coalition. Despite the ferocity of the French attacks, Wellington's troops held their ground with remarkable tenacity. The British infantry, formed in disciplined lines, poured volley after volley of musket fire into the advancing French ranks. British artillery, strategically positioned along the ridge, inflicted heavy casualties on the French attackers. Time and again, the French assaults were repulsed, only to be followed by fresh waves of attackers. As the day wore on, the battle raged with unrelenting fury. Napoleon, frustrated by his army's inability to break the British defenses, threw more and more troops into the fray, desperate for a breakthrough. Wellington, his lines holding but his army suffering heavy losses, anxiously awaited the arrival of Prussian reinforcements. The outcome of the battle hung